Everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about skill-based matchmaking and how to get easier lobbies, because I brought it up on Twitter and people were all in the debate saying people are using VPNs and people are reverse boosting. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I want to do a little bit of video to kind of clear things up, because I think a lot of people struggle with the concept and how sometimes streamers do get easier lobbies. No question that some people out there are using a VPN to change their location to get into easier lobbies, or use some kind of bot hosting method, which we've talked about in the past. But there are organic ways to get easier lobbies, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. Goal on today's video is 8,000 likes, so hopefully you can help me crush that number. If you're brand new, like to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, just double check, make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already. So not too long ago, this was a Reddit post that was shared with me, and I kind of went through and I read through it, and I'm going to kind of abridge some of it as we go through it today. And basically this guy goes through a ton of testing, way more in depth than I've seen before when it comes to skill-based matchmaking, and also engagement-based matchmaking that ideally is supposed to keep you on the game longer. So what I'm going to do is kind of go through some of the findings of this that actually support what I've been talking about for a while, but also allow us to continue the discussion to get a better idea on how you can actually get easier lobbies without doing anything shady, without doing a VPN, and without doing a bot host, and give you a better idea on how it works with the matchmaking when you pair up with a high skilled player and a low skilled player, or just two medium skilled players, or two high skill or two low skill. So we'll go ahead and talk about that throughout today's video. And of course, this post will be linked down in the description. So in the article, it pretty much talks about how skill-based matchmaking, a lot of people complain about it. Obviously, this is more the vocal minority, because there's a huge casual player base that benefits from having easier lobbies that we don't generally get to interact with in any way. Pretty much we got to kind of deal with it. If you are watching this video, you're probably not a casual. Even if you think you're a casual and you don't even play the game, the fact that you're watching YouTube videos about the game you enjoy generally puts you out of that casual bracket, and it puts you at least someone who's invested in the game in some way, whether you hate it, love it. Regardless, that's kind of how it ends up working out. What he was able to do is says that for the skill-based matchmaking portion of the video, he was able to use 220 Warzone matches for 10 different players. And this is a way broader stretch than we did when we did our skill-based matchmaking breakdowns of Warzone in the past, or just regular multiplayer for Modern Warfare, as well as Cold War. So this is way broader, not just 10 matches for 3 or 4 or 5, 6 players. This is 10 players, 220 matches, and they were able to find people from each of the individual skill brackets. So people that are in the top 10%, the middle, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%, 30 to 40%, and C behaviors all the way down to the bottom 10% throughout all of it. And all the people have a good amount of playtime. So they're ranging from about 5.5 days all the way up to about 42 days, somewhere in there. All of those various 10 players were able to fit those criteria. So one player from each of those individual brackets. And what you can see on the screen is that he was able to identify, which is kind of known information. This part is very known and kind of taken as a known thing at this point. But basically, player KD has a positive and highly statistical significant impact on lobby strength. So obviously, as your stats improve, you are likely or more likely to get into a higher skilled bracket. And the lower skilled you are, the more likelihood of you getting into a lower skilled bracket. If you're somewhere in the middle, you could likely go in the middle, or a little bit above, a little bit below. And that's kind of how that works. And there's a general correlation there that we've seen before and tested. And this is kind of more known information, but obviously it's proven definitively with the amount of testing he's done, like I said. And you can go through the numbers that they post and kind of identify, yep, that data is accurate based off everything they're showing. So tacking on to that, this is particularly an important question that a lot of people have been asking about, is what happens when you party up with another person? And what it looks like, the average KD of those players is actually irrelevant. As you can see right here, it says when players of different skill levels team up, their average squad KD has no direct influence on lobby strength. Obviously the line there, you kind of see the difference there versus the other, but the scatter plot doesn't look like you're really seeing a pattern at all until we actually start looking at a few other factors. And then what you can see in this next one is that the individual skill levels of the players inside the squad determine the boundary of the lobby strength within the most matches will occur. So for example, if I was a 5 KD player and I'm playing with a 0.5 KD player, the range of lobbies that we could get into is huge. But if we're two KD players, the odds are we're always going to be in the highest skilled lobby just because that is the right place for both of us. Versus when you split it up, it's kind of like unsure, and that's regardless of host. So if the higher skilled player is the host or the lower skilled player is the host, you're not really going to see those trends of pattern or consistency. It just broadens it so that the likelihood of you getting into a lower skilled lobby or a higher skilled lobby is stretched out a little bit further. So you have a little bit of odds proportionally to those players' skill. So pretty much all the information we covered makes a convincing argument for the existence of skill-based matchmaking. Pretty much that is what is built in. So the next thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is the engagement-based matchmaking. And then this is the game trying to keep you on as long as possible. And it's kind of hard to see patterns unless they're just glaring, whether or not there are specific instances, because obviously if you're performing bad, maybe the game's going to give you an easy lobby. Is that a result of engagement-based matchmaking to keep you on the game longer, or is it because of your performance that led because of skill-based matchmaking? So there's a lot of variables there, and it's very hard to separate things, but we'll go ahead and talk about some of the findings that they found in relation to just getting overall easier lobbies as we go through here. And they looked at top players. They were looking at top streamers. They looked at Huskers, Nick Merckx, Tommy, Swag. They also looked at Jukies, Vapulier, Falaxi, and Shucks. I'm not sure who these last ones are. And then they looked at a couple random people that are just on the leaderboards as grinders, but they don't have streams or YouTube presence. They're just monsters at the game, and they play a lot. So they had those, and they kind of went through and they talked about their specific matches and how they found all the data. And not surprisingly enough, what happens if you play during certain windows, you are going to get easier lobbies. And this is what you can see on the screen now. It says skill-based matchmaking is at its strictest from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. and is toned down significantly from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. local time. And you can kind of see how this graph goes, that in the middle of the night, you're going to end up having some really sweaty lobbies. And as it gets towards about 7 or 8 in the morning, you can kind of see that it ends up being as low as it's going to be, and that is your highest chance in getting into a bronze, silver, or gold lobby. Obviously, that's not a guarantee because there's always the upper threshold where you can get into some platinums, diamonds, because a lot of times people bring up, hey, how does so-and-so get into so many easy lobbies? Well, that streamer does not have a day job besides streaming, so they're at home and able to load into the game at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 a.m. and 12 maybe they play with their West Coast buddies so they get a few more hours in, and that's kind of how the system works. So theoretically, if it's midnight for me and I want to get some easy lobbies, I'd have an EU player host because it would be right at that prime time. 8 a.m. for them, 7 a.m., somewhere around that window. And vice versa, if I was trying to play with them around noon my time, I'd end up getting in about 8 p.m. their time, so the lobbies would be very sweaty as well. So you have this balance where morning lobbies are statistically always going to be easier, and this has almost always been the case. Even going back multiple Call of Duties, people would get on early to record their gameplays. A lot of YouTubers would just get on because they knew, hey, you know what, morning lobbies are easier, people go to work, pretty much little kids are jumping on and they're playing the game on their parents' accounts or whatever, and they're getting into these easier lobbies because overall the goal of the matchmaking, they want to get you in match of relatively competitive level skill. Obviously, every time we've looked at the skill-based matchmaking website, regardless if we're looking at a silver, gold, diamond, whatever, there's always top-end players that are generally well above average. There's middle players that are generally the average players between about 0.8 KD up to 1.1. In case you guys didn't know, if you're above a 1.1, you are considered a top-end player, top 20% of all Call of Duty players if you're a 1.1 or above. So you are essentially in the lower tier diamond lobbies or upper tier platinum. That is your overall ranking as a player. So a lot of times people get in the mix like, oh, why should 1.1 player? It doesn't matter. When you're in the top 20%, So is XYZ streamer that has a 4KD. They're in the top 20%. If they really only did lobbies of the top 3% or the top 2%, 1%, they would be matchmaking for so long. You've ran into these issues in plenty of other games, especially you've seen it in ranked game modes, whether it's Valorant, Fortnite, or even Apex Legends. As you increase your rank and skill level, they shrink the population because you're getting to a higher bracket. The queue times are way longer. I think the longest wait times were like 10, 15 minutes at some times, which is absurd, but that is what is actually happening. But there's no way they're going to do that for public matchmaking. Maybe if they come out with a ranked playlist for Warzone, you would expect that and see that happening because there would be a leaderboard with your individual rank. Public playlist, they can't make people wait 15 minutes. It just doesn't work. Oh, okay, I have to wait 15 minutes because I'm a good player? No, it's not going to happen. They're going to just form a lobby of the top 20% or so. And guess what? You at the 1KD are going to be in that lobby because you're in the top 20-ish%. And then they said after all that, what they did notice is there was a trend that pretty much during the duration of your matches, whatever your last game was, eventually was the easiest. For whatever reason, the game knew you were going to get off. Apparently, I mean, that's one theory behind it. The other is that, you know, you just had a good match because you were in a good lobby, so you decided to end off on a high note. Hey, we got to win. We got some good kills. I felt good about that lobby. I think I'm done for the day. I'm going to end off on a high note. So it does kind of two things. Did the lobby being easier, they knew they were giving you an easier lobby to try and keep you on, or you ended up getting off because you want a good experience. So it's kind of really hard to say there, but you can see right here, the last gaming session on average, the KD was lower for that lobby than the rest of the games played, which is kind of crazy when you're doing things statistically. And obviously, even though this is a much larger sample size than we've seen in pretty much any of the other articles or videos that have been done on skill-based matchmaking, you could even go broader and wider and have way more sample size. Obviously, they had one person in each of those brackets, maybe 1,000 people in each of those brackets. And at the end of the day, we kind of get a general idea. If you're really looking to play at the most optimal time, there's even differences in days. If you can see right here on this chart, and you can see even on Thursdays end up being the easiest day. So combine that Thursday with a 7 a.m. playtime, your local time, you'll probably end up in the best lobby you've ever been in, or have a high statistical probability of ending up in one of those lower skilled lobbies if that's what you're really all about. Otherwise, you kind of just got to deal with it. I know most people have a regular full-time job, cannot just jump on the game whenever they want. Unfortunately, if you're a 1.1 KD player, you're likely almost always going to be in those top end lobbies. If you're a little bit lower than that, sometimes more, sometimes less. If you play at the worst possible time, matchmaking will always be very strong because they're not going to make you sit in queue for 5 minutes. As a bad player, you probably would want that, so you could just hang out. Hey, you know what? I want to wait for a bronze lobby. Could you please let me wait here for a bronze lobby? It's just not going to be the case. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. Definitely go ahead and check out the article if you want. It has way more detailed information. I kind of just breezed through the important parts to kind of clear up one of the biggest misconceptions. Obviously, people are using VPNs or some kind of router to game the system, but unless somebody is just getting bronze lobby every single match, it is highly improbable that they were doing that. Obviously, if they're playing in the mornings, they're getting some silvers. It is what it is. You can't play in the mornings. Too bad, too sad. I don't play in the mornings either. I'm usually asleep in the morning, so I don't game at that time. I'm always in the afternoon. Most of my lobbies are platinum diamond, and that's just kind of how it goes. I deal with it because it is what it is at the end of the day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the like button. Brand new, looking to find your way back. Subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate all the support on the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.